Today, I'm gonna try and teach you how to fight like Israel Adesanya. But first, I'm probably gonna need to teach myself. And here's exactly how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna break down Izzy's fight footage. After that, I'm gonna take some of the important fight tactics that he uses, and then I'm gonna try and put my knowledge to the test and show you how to fight by doing it in sparring. So if I don't teach myself correctly, good chance that I get my butt kicked. So now it's time to master the ways of the anime fighter man himself, Israel Adesanya. Let's get to it. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I'm on a little bit of a time crunch here. We're gonna break down some Israel Adesanya fight footage. Now, I've watched a lot of these fights, but I wanna go more in depth. Look at his footwork, look at his hips, his stance, and some other stuff that maybe we can try and recreate when we spar. So we've got a back leg question mark kick there, and then a spinning wheel kick. I feel like I can do that part. Showing some back leg feints here, and then floats into a cross, and then a back leg roundhouse kick. Back leg feint, so he makes you think up high, then he goes feint and then cross, and then he actually throws the back leg roundhouse kick. So all three different variations of this, they all started the same with that hip. So anytime I want to break down fighter footwork, this is what I do. I put it 0.25, then I press go. Bang. Boom. Now, there's a little bit of difference in that 1-2. He goes 1, bang, big step with the jab, boom. Now, back foot's gonna step in, he's gonna reload, and then throw the 2. So he's covering distance. Boom. 1, 2. Beautiful. Okay, so obviously the movement's there. He's got a wider stance, but he's got his hips more squared up to his target. Using all 4 limbs. Roundhouse kick there, switches stance. He does a really good job of going roundhouse kick, putting it down, and then going 1-2. Where I go, bang, and then I put it down, my hips stay square, like I mentioned before, he does a good job of, and then throwing his 1-2. So he has different ways of closing the distance and throwing that super long 1-2 that he's got because of his crazy range. One thing that he does that's so much different than every other really long fighter, where he's got a really, really wide Muay Thai stance, he does a good job of throwing his combos, and then as soon as people get in, he just sits them right into his plum, right? Bang, another feint to the hips, beautiful. Again, what he does is he takes his back leg and he feints the low roundhouse kick, then he feints the back leg knee, and then he feints the cross. He does so much feinting that it's all based off of his back leg. That's gonna be our goal. A lot of switching sides, a lot of back leg feints, low leg kicks, knees, and crosses. Okay, so it's city kickboxing. You see Izzy doing a lot of sparring, and it's a lot of like hip feints. He feints this back leg a ton. He's either throwing a back leg roundhouse kick to the outside of the leg or the calf. If you want to know more about that, you should check out Wonder Boy's video where he talks about it. He throws a lot of front kicks, he throws a lot of question mark kicks, especially off of those feints. A lot of things that can threaten you happen from his back leg, but then also what he does a phenomenal job of, he'll do a lot of feints and then float in and throw this cross. Feint and step in, boom, bang, and he skips here. He goes bang, bang. So as I'm fighting here, he goes bang. So while you're thinking, don't hit me for that back leg, then he either fires high with the question mark kick, on the opposite side with a jab or a hook, or he'll jump into the clinch and then throw a knee. So you'll feint it, clinch, knee. Beautiful tactic. Very Muay Thai-esque because they have all 4 weapons readily available because of the more square stance. Now, while he does use the more squared stance, he's still pretty wide in his base to keep that movement. If you think about it this way, the closer your feet are together, the better you are at going up because all of your muscles align to extend the knees and go boom, explode up. By changing the angle of your legs, you can change it. So this explosion is now more this way because my leg is outside of my hip. Boom. So by mixing the squareness of a Muay Thai stance and the more wide stance of someone that's explosive and point-based, he can get in, knock, and also have all 4 weapons available. But what you see against Robert Whittaker, a very aggressive fighter, is Izzy's ability to move backwards, switch stances, and throw hooks. Izzy likes to throw a lead cross and then a lead hook because of this squared stance we talked about earlier. So he can go rip it back and then throw the hook. Bang, bang! And he leans back, boom, utilizes this range and this distance and his balance to then throw a really long 3. Boom, bang, whoop, But now it's time for the ultimate test. Let's go put this into action in sparring. What you're about to watch are sparring rounds that I dedicated solely to becoming more like Israel Adesanya. That means more leg kicks, that means more hanging out close with my hips towards my opponent, but keeping a level of elusiveness at the same time. I managed to work that skip in early with some feints and even a question mark kick. This success alone coming from that rear leg roundhouse kick we talked about before. Now, this round gets ahead of me a little bit because of this right here. Not that there was anything wrong, I just really wanted to knock him down now. Catch my leg. Please catch my leg. Oh, trying to trip me. When I was going, I thought I was starting to feel a little bit more comfortable in this stance. I thought that I was starting to get the hang of it. You see a foot sweep there. But I realized that I was just kind of slowly reverting back to my stance. But I was utilizing this movement with the back leg, and I was starting to turn my hips a little bit further over on these hook punches to stay longer, Izzy-esque. Here's a prime example of me trying to be Izzy-esque. We talked about that 1-2, and I worked that in a lot, trying to keep range. But I also was starting to get used to throwing this feint, putting my foot down closer and utilizing that range change. Range change, I like that. Here I try and throw that long retreating hook punch, but Bobby managed to land a leg kick before I can turn all the way back. Nice combination there by Bobby. And now I'm working on feinting and going upstairs. Now, when I sparred with Josh, I told him the purpose of the session, to emulate. But what I wanted to happen is I wanted him to guess who it was. With each strike that I threw, I could kind of feel him starting to understand a little bit, starting to break it down in his own head. After that one, he got it. I didn't even get a chance to do this one yet. But that's beside the point. For the rest of the round, we both kind of worked on our own Izzy-esque types of movements. Especially working on this moving in here. Big step, fake, fire up top. These lower kick fancinesses are something I'm starting to get more used to because I'm not going to out leg kick the ties, but I can out trick them. And then we start to go back and forth very instructor-like. We talk about the things we notice, like his long guard, his check hook, and other stuff that we totally would never use. Wouldn't work. I was starting to get into an Izzy flow, you know, I was feeling myself. But once again, as I watched this back, I realized that I'm not actually sparring so much like Izzy. Maybe I'm doing some of the things that I noticed that he does, but as I rewatch his footage and I rewatch mine, I realize that my foot's not as sideways as his usually is. My head's not off to the side. I'm not threatening to cross as much. I don't have enough tools in my arsenal yet to make the feints as effective as his are. But that's okay. That's why we practice. So there you have it. There is how you fight like Israel Adesanya. Sorta. In making this video, I realized that it is much more difficult to fight like someone than you would think, because your natural instincts to fight like yourself kick in, at least if you have some level of training. You know, your dimensions are different, your body's different, your height, your weight, your length in your arms. There's so many different things that come into play. How good you are moving laterally, vertically, your roundhouse kick, your mobility, everything. However, I feel somewhat confident that if you watch this video, you got at least one thing out of it that could make you a little bit more Izzy
if you will. Now, to summarize, more back leg utilization, roundhouse kicks, question mark kicks, front kicks. While you utilize the jab, you also push that back shoulder forwards a lot and throw a lot of crosses. By doing this, you will open yourself up to have more rotation and backwards retreat on that hook punch. How close you seem changes based off of which shoulders forwards. By pushing my back shoulder forwards, I give the illusion that I'm closer. So when I move backwards, I'm further away and have just as much power. Number 3, stay light on your feet, but being able to stay sturdy on impact is huge, and Israel Adesanya is great at it. And tip number 4, obviously, is watch anime. Oh, maybe that's where I messed up.